In the tradition of Malcolm X, peace be unto you. When you have a problem that you need to solve, or when you need to understand some situation that you find yourself in, when you sit down to address that problem or to discern the meaning of the situation you find yourself in, when you sit down and you do the math and you draw the conclusion based upon the facts and your calculations, the world will look very differently than the illusions or delusions or your beliefs that you have been entertaining. And that is likely to cause you to feel uncomfortable. It is called cognitive dissonance, when reality doesn't jive with what you have been imagining it to be. Now, let me lay this fact that most of you are aware of out first. There are approximately 35 million American descendants of slaves in the United States. Now, I've adjusted that population figure because I subtract those who are not American descendants of slaves, because I want to demonstrate something to you. And in order to do that, I've resorted again to my Pareto analysis. And what I'm putting up here for you to see is the analysis that I've done involving some very well-known YouTube channels. Now, for the week March 1st, as you can see, through March 10th of this year, 2009, some of the most influential American descendant of slave YouTube channels were: 1, at the top, SJ So Cool; 2, DJ Academics; and 3, Revolt TV. Together, those channels influenced 80% of all American descendant of slave YouTube interests. That is, persons who are surfing the net to satisfy some interest that they may have. And what that means is that those channels exerted the greatest psychological and emotional influence on 3 generations: 1, Generation Z; 2, Generation X; and 3, the millennial generation. So if you're in your 40s, you would be in the millennial generation. You can see the channels that I have listed for you here from top to bottom. You can see the number of hits that each channel received, all the way down to the channel that is operated by Lennon Honor. You can see at the top that CJ So Cool got 4,452,716 hits within a 2 to 3 day period of time. And the way I did it is, depending upon how many shows a person did for the month of March, I gave them credit for up to 3. Now, if a person only did 1, then they got credit for 1. So between 1 and 3 of their shows were counted in order for me to add the total number of hits to show you on this analysis. Now, the cumulative number of hits for all the shows, was 10,192,472. And you can see the list. You see the cumulative numbers here, and you see the number at the bottom, 10,192,472. Which, if you go back to the population figure that I gave you, amounts to quite a significant percentage of the total number of descendants of slaves counted by the United States Census. And what it means is that almost, and we are excluding children, of course, and we're excluding people without a computer, without access to the internet, and we're excluding people who don't have a cell phone, because the majority of American descendants of slaves do not have a computer in their home. Most African Americans, American descendants of slaves, access the internet now by their cell phone. And so we are talking about a very, very small percentage of the total number of African American adults who have an interest in going on the internet. And most don't. So 10 million rounded off, 10 million rounded off here compared to the 35 million figure that I gave you is almost 33%. And again, if we take away from children, we're talking about probably less than 50% of American descendants of slaves, particularly youngsters in the Z, X, and millennial generation, are surfing the net through the week. Now, also, I want to make this fact known. A large percentage of those who go to the sites that I have listed, they visit other sites. And I'm sure you know that. There is not very many people who are loyal to one site. And so these folks hop from site to site. And according to my analysis, it is usually for entertainment purposes. And so what I've done, and you can see that either now or in a few seconds, what I've done is I've listed 7 categories so that we can go in depth and try to understand what we're facing here on a large scale in terms of the total population of people who are going to be here in the United States over the next 40 to 50 to 60 years. American descendants of slaves who are going to be making decisions about the destiny of descendants of slaves in the United States over the next 20 or 30 years. Number one, the first category is postmodern consumerism, promotional. And you can see that those shows that promoted consumerism accounted for 8,234,784 of the total hits for that week that I mentioned to you earlier, March 1st through March 10th. Second is frivolous gossip shows. Those shows accounted for 800,363 hits. Third, rhetorical message shows. Those are shows that are usually rhetorical, but do convey some kind of message. And number 4, comical entertainment shows. Here I have one show under that category. 295,865. That kind of show mixes some entertainment with some information. And then we have news commentary shows. They accounted for 265,415. And what those shows do is they tend to reiterate news from the mainstream media. And 6 mythological shows. And those shows accounted for 144,253 hits for that time frame. Now, mythological shows range from Christian shows, the Nation of Islam, and ancient Egyptian mythological shows. And 7th, we have one family-oriented show, which accounted for 1,195 hits for that time frame. Now, when you look at this list, what you're seeing is, and I'm not saying that this is an absolute measurement. This is a sample. These are samples I've taken to make a point. What you're looking at, literally, is what younger American descendants of slaves are interested in. You're looking at what they gravitate to. But you're also looking at something else. You're looking at a kind of magnet that is drawing them, that is causing them to gravitate to consumerism, to frivolous gossip. Now, take, for instance, The Breakfast Club, or take, for instance, one of the other shows that I have listed here, Revolt TV, CJ So Cool, Bull One TRCC, and ask yourself this question. As you look, if you want to sample those shows, as you look at the setting, ask yourself, who's running the camera? Who are the camera crews? Who is setting up the stage props? Who is supplying the merchandise that is displayed, that is promoted? So even though you see American descendant of slaves sometimes, in this case, I think most of them are, even though you see them making the commentaries, even though you see them showing the merchandise, try to understand that they are front personnel and that behind them, behind the camera, the producers, the directors, the owners are white supremacists. They're actually the ones promoting those shows behind the scenes. And that is no different than what was occurring and still is occurring in the music industry. When you see the rappers perform, what you don't see behind them are the Hollywood producers and executives who dangle them in front of you to attract you, to make money, selling their merchandise through another American descendant of slave who happens to be their puppet and who will probably do anything for money. So when you look at these programs, try not to just simply become a victim of the entertainment glitter. Try to do a content analysis and ask yourself, who has set this up and what exactly are they trying to get from you? Now, there's the show, The Frivolous Gossip Show. Well, I think you understand what that's all about. That's just simply profane gossip orchestrated to attract you. It's a form of entertainment. And those persons who do such shows are simply trying to cash in on YouTube's monetizing opportunity. So the obvious statistical message is simple. When you look at the figures again that I have provided to you, you can see for yourself that the vast majority of our young American descendants of slaves, and when I say young, I mean all the way up into I would say, mid-40s. What they are generally interested in on YouTube is entertainment. They're not really interested significantly in the better quality shows like the rhetorical message shows, and you can see that arithmetically. They only received combined 436,368. So even if they combined forces to critically express their points of view regarding what exactly is happening to you, they would not get enough hits to match the millions and millions of hits that the consumerist shows are getting. And so here we have another instance of young African Americans who are descendants of slaves being fashioned to mark a trail for the future conduct of millions of the children that they will have. In fact, if you watch the show CJ So Cool, do your content analysis. They always position the children in the frame. Whoever is behind the camera, whoever is the producer, whoever is the executive, is telling them, put your children in the frame. Take them to the mall. Involve them in consumption for the sake of consumption. Consumption for the sake of pleasure. Consumption for the sake of making themselves feel better. But you notice that you never see them in school. You never see them doing homework. And I must admit, I haven't seen all their shows. I've only sampled some shows. But there is never really any serious parenting, unless, of course, you look at the One Family show. That is an outstanding show. And of course, if you listen to some of the rhetorical message shows, you will hear outstanding commentary on what is of primary importance today for American descendants of slaves. But no one's listening. And I mean no one in a sense, in a comparative sense. And so the fact of the matter is, we're not moving. We have no gravitas. We're not moving in the direction to make things happen. We're not moving in the direction that makes others think that we're serious about issues regarding reparations or education or the many other problems that we face in our communities. And the numbers tell us what we oftentimes do not want to see. The numbers describe reality. And the reality today for us in the United States is biased against us because we have no traction. We have potential for traction. But as I've said before, we are prodigal. We are prodigal on all levels in our societies, in our families. And that's what the numbers tell us. So I'm going to end and display again for you the Pareto analysis, which says that there's 3 channels that are having the greatest influence, having 80% of the influence on American descendants of slaves in 3 generations. Now, my question to you, because if you're listening to my show, you're serious. My question to you and my question to those who try to operate the rhetorical message shows, those who do serious news commentary, my question is, Jason Black, Professor Black Headquarters, Yvette Carnell, Antonio Moore, what are we going to do about that? I think more commentary on those programs that are problematical for our future. More commentary should be made on those shows to uncover the white supremacist behind them, which in my learned opinion is no different than the white supremacist who controlled all through the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and up till today, the music industry that many American descendants of slaves are involved in. And one last step. When you do that analysis, identify their political and national affiliations. Are they part of AIPAC? Are they Zionists? Are they Republicans? Are they Democrats? Do that analysis too. And you will see a lot more of reality at that point than even the numbers will reveal to you. I am Dr. Stephen Nur Ahmed. Peace be unto you.